Good calls. So we'll go right to West Virginia. I don't think we need to go back much on the Kansas game. This team's playing really good football right now. This is the most physical team defensively that we've played by far. They could be the best 4-4 team in the country, particularly playing really, really well at home, playing good defense, very disruptive. And so we'll have to really have a good week of practice and have good plans on both sides of the ball, and get ready to go out there and play on Saturday afternoon.
Is there anything you've seen from them on film, from early on film to this past weekend against Iowa State, that you can clearly see a big improvement from them?
They've played well. They've adjusted and made some changes offensively. You know, they're wanting to throw the ball more, in my opinion, and that's where they've made improvements from an outsider looking in on some of the things they've done offensively. But they're very similar defensively. They've been pretty good defensively all year, and they're very disruptive. They're very fast. They're very physical, and they tackle well.
It looks like on defense they still play a lot of stack, but then they get in nickel as well. And it looked like they made some changes. I mean, against Iowa State, just to absorb that double tight end offense.
Yeah, Iowa State's a little different to defend than most other teams in this league, so they did make a few adjustments. But you know, they're in a stack. Ultimately, they start with a 3 down. They're going to end up in a 4 down, though. Somebody's going to come from the edge or from the middle to end up in a 4 down defense with a variety of brackets and quarters and 3 coverages in the back end, a lot of different things in the back end, some trap corner. It's the same guys. I mean, 55, 90, 7, 6, 12, 29's in the middle, 19's in the middle, so very similar to what it was. And right now they're playing well. It's a good football team.
How hard are they for a quarterback to try and figure out at the line of scrimmage?
Well, they do a lot of different things. You get a variety, and they disguise well and bring guys from different areas. Very seldom do they ever play straight up front. They twist all the time. They're moving. A lot of movement, a lot of twists, a lot of stunts, a lot of rotation in the back end. You know, they got a lot going on. So you have to really, really come up with a good plan offensively and have a good idea of what you want to accomplish, not try to get out of your box too much, in my opinion. Offensively, Ford's a good back. He's running hard. He ran really hard last week. They tell him at times, it looks like to me, that we're going to give it to you and we need you to find a way to get 4 yards. Drops his pads, runs through people. 24 comes in, backs him up some, and he's got a little bit of side-to-side movement in him. I think this is the best offensive line at this point in the league. They're really playing well up front, and they don't even have a senior on the offensive line. They're playing with a couple sophomores, a freshman, and a couple juniors.
Mike, I know you always talk about, I'll know about my team in October. Now you're into November, and I know you don't want to jinx anything, but the consistency, I mean, the consistent good play of this defense, is this probably the best you've had in your career? Well,
they're playing good. They've been consistent. I think our plans are good. I think the maturity, the experience, the number of reps that we have guys playing has worked to our advantage. I think the depth we have up front works to our advantage. All those things put together, maybe as an organization we have a good feel for who we are defensively, has helped us play really, really good. I'll say that. You know, and I've said it each week, you know, there's probably not a lot of teams in the country that can say they played pretty good defensively every week. We've played pretty good defensively every week. The team we're playing Saturday is a different approach. It's the best group up front we've played. They have a back that's physical. Their quarterback is considerably better, in my opinion, than he was last year. And they got a couple wideouts that can make plays. And they got a big tight end, 85 or 89, I can't remember his number. He's made plays for them. And they're gelling. They're playing much better now than they were a month ago, in my opinion.
Is there anything in particular your defense is doing well on third down that you notice?
You know, Jim mixes it up. There's the variety. I think he's a good play caller, which is part of it on third downs. Do things that people think you wouldn't do. And I think the experience and some of the things we do with the veterans at the safety positions and the linebackers help with that.
like November typically as a month where you get a lot of tight fits, no matter what kind of season you play up until then. A lot of close games, toss-up games. Is this where the way you can put in all seasons, 4-quarter games? Is this where your success in those games really comes to fruition?
Hopefully, this will be. I mean, I said it last week, and obviously I didn't think that what happened would happen, but nobody in here was willing to debate me on a 4-quarter game. This will be a 4-quarter game. We need to get to the fourth quarter with these guys. They're playing really good right now, and hopefully we can get in that position to where the experience that we've had in 5 or 6 games this year should help us. I would think, because we've been there, but. We need to put ourselves in a position where we're in a competitive game in the fourth quarter.
Is that as simple as maturity and experience that leads you to success in those type games, or do you put your finger on other factors?
There's probably other factors, but maturity and experience late in games like that, where players can focus on what's going on and not get caught up in the moment, does make. I would say that's the majority of it, just in my experience.
Mike, you got a really good team. You've had other really good teams, but when you reach a point in November, you're 11th or whatever you are in the polls, you got a chance to do all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. You just get a personal sense of, hey, we need to capitalize. This is prime opportunity for us.
Well, what I told the team last night is the way that they've handled themselves and their commitment to each other and taking care of their bodies and their focus and discipline and their toughness and the way they've practiced have put them in a really good position in November. That's a fact. So the one area you have to be careful about now is human nature is to ease back a little because everybody's tired. Players are tired. Coaches are tired. We're into the 4th month now, and that's where you can get into some issues. So you have to push forward. If you've had a good season up to this point and you've had success, it's a little bit easier to get players to continue to work hard and have fun in practice, do the things that's necessary, focus, and play well on Saturdays. And I told them, you're now in a good position. There's a lot of teams in the country that would like to be where you are. It does 2 things. One, it doesn't guarantee you anything moving forward. But 2, it allows you to understand the importance of continuing on to give yourself to play the best chance to play on Saturday at a high level. And so that's kind of what I told the team last night.
Mike, 2 things. One, because of the way the game went Saturday, you had 86 players is what I counted that played. Mm-hmm. Guys got to rest some of the starters. Did you notice that in practice? Because you bring them back on Sunday. Did you notice a little pep in the step? And especially the guys that got to play for the first time, that's usually a pretty good momentum thing or attitude thing when those guys get to play.
Well, they're the guys that we've practiced through COVID. It's what COVID taught us. And then we continued in the spring and continued in the fall. And so those guys, the third wave of guys that got to play in that game have had more reps than any third wave group of players in the history. Well, I shouldn't say history. It's not been that long. In my 17 years here. And so when we put them in there, we could function a little bit. I thought that the second wave of guys that went in on both sides of the ball functioned really well. And the reason is because they've had just as many reps as the first. The thirds are cut back to about 50%, which normally the thirds would be about 5%. So if you watch the sidelines during the game, I don't know if we talked about this or not, but if you watch the sidelines during the game, the players were excited for the other guys all the way down to the last second of the game, which tells you that we have a good chemistry amongst the group, that we have a good culture with our team. They care about the other guys making plays. And you would see it all the way from Spencer and Malcolm Rodriguez all the way down to freshmen like Gunner. That he was excited that his buddies got to play in the game and got to do things that were positive. I kind of watched everybody, and so that's a good thing.
The other thing is, for the second time, they did this last year, this day off, like you'll have tomorrow throughout college athletics. It changes your schedule. And I know you hate to change routine, but because you've done it before, you feel better about it.
Oh, I mean, I guess. I don't know that I ever feel better about our routine. So we practice tonight. We'll end up to about 2 hours and 20 minutes short of preparation for what would be a normal Tuesday based on the adjustments we made yesterday and then backing things up today. But we still can't gather those 6 hours back. We're still a couple short. But we've worked hard and we're all pushing to try to get accomplished what we would get accomplished prior to tonight's practice, which would normally be a Tuesday. So it's a big push. That's why I was a few minutes late. I was in there watching tape, and I didn't realize it was 12:01 when I looked at my clock. Danielle's not here to remind me, so I was stuck on my own. But the point being is that we're going to be about 2 hours and 20 minutes short for preparation for tonight. But the players have been around the facility spending time here today, so I asked them yesterday to try to make up for it, try to get a good quality 40 minutes of video watch without your phone, and try to focus and absorb some information so your meetings can be very productive today for tonight's practice. So, we get Tuesday off, but we don't get Tuesday's practice back. That's tonight. So that's important for the preparation.
You mentioned the sideline hype. Who's the hype guy? Did you notice anyone specific?
Well, I noticed all of them. So Tyler Lacey and Spencer and Malcolm and Harper and Peel, that generation, okay? And then you can go down to Jalen, who just showed up here, and then some of the sophomores, a couple years behind, and then some of the freshmen, as I mentioned, Gunner and his group. So all levels were excited for everybody that was getting in there playing, and that's kind of what I noticed when I just kind of watched everybody, because they all kind of pawed up together based on their years that they've been here.
Mike, you said you pretty much know what kind of defense you got right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a pretty good read on what kind of offense you have right now?
Where I mentioned after the game Saturday night that I felt better last week, and I know that I'm not trying to, Kansas obviously is not playing as good as they would want to, but we still played better than the opponent that we played. You see what I'm saying? Because we've had some consistency in who's at which personnel for now about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's helped to our preparation. So we're not there. We've got a ways to go, and we're going to need to find a way to score more points than we've been scoring, take away the Kansas game, in order to win out here on the road, because they're going to score some from what I see. Their offensive line concerns me, their back concerns me, their quarterback's playing better, and their wideouts concern me more so than what it has been in the past. He's doing a good job out there. So offensively, we're going to have to continue to improve and find a way to generate enough points to fight them off at home and put ourselves in position to, when the clock expires, that we can find a way to have one more point than they do.
Mike, we started last month talking about Spencer's 3-interception game against Baylor, and then he closed out the month with 3 pretty clean games. How did you see him kind of elevate things, and how does that impact where the offense is now?
I think the consistency in our personnel's helped him. We're healthy now for about 3 weeks in a row. We've improved a little bit up front. We played pretty good. The last, if you just take the last 3 games or 4 games, overall the offensive line played pretty good in all areas. There's been times we maybe weren't as physical as running as we wanted to. The second half of Iowa State was an example of that. There's times maybe we didn't protect as good as we should have. But overall, they've improved. And then we've had consistency on the health of our skill players. And that's going to allow him to play better and be in a comfort zone.
You kind of mentioned the importance of watching film this week with less practice time. I think Tanner McAllister was talking to us a few weeks ago that he's gotten better at watching film since he's been here. Kind of how does that experience, how do they get better at watching film, I guess, as they get experience?
So their coaches are responsible for giving them the information at the first of every week of what they want them to see and watch, and then where that's located in there. Everything's technology now. Don't ask me how it works, because I don't know. That's why I use one of those instead of one of those, is because I can't figure that out. But these guys know how to do all that. They can whip through the computer. They get in their hot box or hot locker or whatever y'all call those things. They look for whatever their coaches have left for them, and they study tape, and they understand to turn their phone off and really focus on what they've been told to focus on Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And that should give them the information that our coaches feel like is important for them for preparation. So we lay out, technology does allow you to lay everything out there for them. If they're willing to do that, most of us now are at week 9. Yeah, because we're 7-1, I think. So we're at week 9. Pretty much everybody's who they are now. So nobody's going to really make a drastic change in any of the 3 phases at this point, because we don't have enough practice time for that. So if you're willing to study tape, then you're going to know what's going on. And so it's basically up to you as an individual. The smart guys that get it, that are experienced like him, he's been here long enough now, he knows the importance of it. And that's why they do it, and that's what he's referring to when he talks about he now knows how to study and watch tape, not just like watching a picture. He's watching specific things that can help him get tipped off during the game.
Is that an underappreciated part to the experience you have, particularly on defense?
Underappreciated by
Yeah, I guess the
public.
Yeah, not a lot of people are going to think about, oh, they're watching film better than they have before.
Right. It's a big part, and you see things. You see it a lot on TV in the NFL with quarterbacks, but there's a lot of defensive guys that do it. They see route splits. Is he wide? Is he tight? How's he lined up? When he comes off the ball, where his eyes are, what his footwork is, what his stance is. There's a lot of keys and tips in football because all of us are creatures of habit. We do the same thing all the time. We try to change it up, we end up doing the same stuff all the time. So there's a lot of things that are important for guys that are willing to put the time in and study tape. And it makes a big difference. And that's just people that are in the general public wouldn't understand that because it's too complicated. It's like somebody trying to teach me how to build a bridge. I got no chance, okay? And so these guys that study tape, it's an advantage for them.
I can ask Spencer for a second. Does the defensive consistency take some of the pressure off him to produce offensively, or is there always going to be, regardless, that kind of emphasis on the quarterback? That's just how it works in college football.
Yeah, 100% the defense has kept him floating and kept us floating offensively. No question. You guys, most of you guys in here, other than the young people, have watched our teams for 15 years. And so the game feels differently now when we're playing, right? Normally it was you hold your breath all the time and try to score as much as you can or as fast as you can. So it has to help him from a pressure standpoint. Quarterbacks are always going to be under pressure. But there is some of it that's removed based on, hey, the defense is playing pretty good. If it doesn't work out and we punt, it's not that bad an option.
Mike, a week ago, I was surprised when Tech fired Matt Wells. I was stunned yesterday at the Gary Patterson news. Is something going on where schools becoming less and less patient? Well, Matt's 2.5 years in. He's 5-3 this year. Gary Patterson's got a statue in front of the stadium.
I think the way you put it was exactly the same way I felt. I don't know the inside of what's going on. I have not talked to Matt, and obviously I haven't talked to Gary. At some point I will. We never know what goes on in the walls of some people's houses, other people's homes. But I was surprised. The team I'm watching on tape is a really good football team. Okay? And they beat them. Maybe they weren't playing as good, or maybe they played at home, whatever. They still beat them. So I was, I don't know what's going on with Kirby. But I was surprised, yes. I think it's fair to say that. And when they texted me last night, I was kind of shocked. That was a shocker to me. So I don't know what all is going on. I know that forever, coaches pretty much lived on a hot seat. And then the last 4 to 6 years, it's kind of changed. People were kind of hanging with people longer. And then obviously there was some quick turnaround this year with some of the things that have gone on across the country. I'm a coach, so I see the other side of it. It's like what's going on with Mark Stoops. Mark was after year 4 or 5, and he was like 12-39 or something, and they said, well, we're going to stick with him, and it's worked really well for them. So you never know what's going on in other people's worlds, but I was surprised myself.
It seems to me just financially it's bewildering because you got COVID, you got, in the case of those two schools, Big 12's finances are uncertain going forward, and yet write a check and move down the road.
Somebody probably wrote a check. What you're saying is correct. And again, I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to guess that somebody, in most cases, that check's not going to come out of the budget because you can't answer for it. Their budgets are going to be very similar to ours, and you could bring Chad over here and ask him. I doubt he can drop however much it costs millions-wise because we're still trying to make up for COVID. We still have people that haven't been paid for COVID. It's a tough situation. So, Tech's a public school, so you'll eventually find out the information. TCU, you might not ever find out because it's private, but I doubt that came from their budget.
What kind of less about venues where you play? You played night at Boise, in Austin with a packed house, Iowa State rushes the field. Now you go to Morgantown, which is pretty tough. Does that concern you at all because your defense is so good, or because you play in those venues, you think you kind of think pretty much everything you'll see on the field?
The maturity that we have lessens that with the experience that we have players-wise. I don't think it affects our guys. You know, maybe they'll go out there and play poorly defensively, but I really don't think that the venue affects them much. They've got a really good atmosphere out there. What you're saying is correct. I don't think Spencer cares where he plays. I don't think Jaylen Warren cares. You know, I don't think it affects him as much with the maturity of our team. What concerns me more is the way their team is playing right now. And then can that generate excitement in that stadium? That concerns me more.
How have you changed that over the years? I remember 10 years ago, whenever, they always wrote about can OSU win big on the road.
Mm-hmm.
You guys got rid of that a long time ago, and now you play well most of the time on the road. What happened?
I would say maturity. I would say I've been here a long time. If you have consistency in your organization with your coaches, your concepts, your thought process, it allows you to play better, and particularly even on the road when it's more difficult. But we've also had better players now, and you know, it's still a game that's dominated by players, not coaches. And as we've brought in players that have continued to get improved, and better. I don't know. In 2009, we had really good players. I mean, we might have had better overall NFL prospects in 9 and 10 than we do now. So I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn there. I would say consistency in our organization, maybe, just helps with playing on the road. And then I think, we won up in we won at Missouri. We've talked about this before, when they were in 2 or 3 or 4 in the country.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, when Fodge tried to fake a 4th and 21 punt. I had to tell him the math. I said, Fodge, you're 14 behind the line, so when you catch it, you have to get 35 yards, and you run a 5 flat. He got like 19? He almost got it. But anyway, so I think when we won that one, and then everybody's like, hey, we can do this, and then we won another one. Then we won at A&M down there. We were down by 20 at half, and then I think everybody just kind of thinks you can win, and maybe it just happens.
Matt Campbell's now the second most tenured coach in the league. Is this strange for you to kind of be in this new era of Big 12 coaches, having gone through?
It is, but I was visiting last night. After we worked out, I went home and dressed up and handed out candy, and I was visiting with a couple people. The news was coming out about Coach Patterson, whatever time, 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. Y'all probably heard about it before then, but I didn't get it till then. And that question got brought up because now Kirk, I think, is the longest at Iowa, and then I think I'm second now, right?
We didn't know. We had to about 2 weeks.
Oh, he does? Well, that doesn't count. So 2 weeks.
You're the dean in the Big 12 for sure.
Yeah,
You probably
yeah.
were anyway.
Yeah. I forgot about Kyle. He's done really well for a long time. So anyway, it is kind of unusual. It's no different than now recruiting when I'm recruiting kids of players I've coached. It's unusual. So you'll feel that way someday in about 30 years.
When you say you dressed up, did you mean costume-wise?
Sure.
What was it?
Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
What's a Halloween like at the Gundy house?
Well, we go to I live on a ranch, so nobody's going to trick or treat. It's a quarter mile to the house, so nobody, by the time they did that, they'd be out of candy to get back. So we go to a neighborhood over there, and it was pretty cool. I saw, didn't mean for this to happen, but Sione came and Brock Martin came with their babies. They have little babies and wives and all that, and they showed up. Babies were all dressed up. And when they left, they didn't know who I was. Because, I was full dressed like a scarecrow. They didn't even know who I was. So it was even better. So they had their babies, and I was thinking, here you have Sione from all the way on the other side of the world, and you have Brock Martin from Ulagal, America. and they're hanging out with their families and their little babies and trick-or-treating. I think that's kind of what it's all about. It's pretty cool. But it was funny when finally they started to walk off and they realized who I was. They got a big kick out of that. So.
Mike, I think you told us German chocolate cake was the birthday favorite, their Halloween candy favorite.
Do I have? Well, after seeing the Twitter from Leach on his Halloween candy, I don't know that I can top that. But one thing I agree with Mike on is I am not a big fan of candy corn. But anything else that's got chocolate in it, I'll eat it, or caramel or whatever. And he mentioned the sprees from a box. I like sprees from a box. I just haven't been able to find them because he said he goes and gets them at the Dollar General store. We don't have that around here.
Did we talk about obviously Gary Patterson and Matt Wells? Obviously the coach of Washington State was fired for a different reason earlier this year. And OSU just a few days ago announced their kind of vaccine mandate for all employees. Coaches are state employees of the university. Did you get a chance to think about that?
Well, think about which part?
Think about kind of I think you said you're vaccinated, but I'm wondering for your staff and things, do you have an opinion on
Yeah,
that?
so I believe everybody has a right to whatever they want to do, but I also know that I work for a state university, and so there's people that can tell me what to do. And people above me that can make decisions, and whatever those decisions are, I have to follow if I want to be employed at a state university, whether I agree with it or not. But I'm not afraid to say that I believe people should have a choice to do what they want to do. But, the president, she's put in a tough situation. When somebody calls you and says, we're going to cut your federal money off, or you need to be vaccinated. I mean, I don't do the budget over there, but I know $90 million is a lot of money for this university. And so whether you like it or not, you pretty much have to put something into place. And that's why that email came out last Friday. So there's no right or wrong, right? I mean, it is what it is. If I'm a state employee, so there's people that can tell me what to do.
Coach, there have been several potential targeting penalties, like Trey Sterling at Missouri State. What are your thoughts on players being sidelined for 2 halves after that penalty? Do you think the punishment kind of fits the crime?
So targeting has been a very positive thing for college football because their goal originally was the safety of the players, and it has considerably changed violent hits, particularly in the secondary where wide receivers are reaching for a ball and guys hit them and can hurt people. And so it has worked for what they were trying to get accomplished. It is one of those rules that I'm not a big fan of because human nature and human error can really be a factor in the decision that's made. And that is a big decision. One, you have 15 yards, and two, you could have a good player or any player out of the game or potentially out for the next game. So that's back to almost your vaccination comment. There is no right or wrong. It's just a part of it. There's just so many moving parts, and it's really hard. They are reviewing it, but there's been times that the reviews don't make any sense to me either. And I don't know the rule the way I should know it because there's too many moving parts. But they tried to make the game safer. They've accomplished that. Let's put it that way. Sometimes can it be a difficult situation for a defensive player? Sure, because you're fighting for your life. You're just trying to get there. You're trying to tackle a fast guy in space. You're going down to tackle him. He lowers his head. You lower your head. We have a collision. You're out of the game. And really, you're just trying to play football. So there's a difference between that and then what the rule is intended for is a defenseless player. And so that's where you have an issue. But overall, they've accomplished what they wanted, and I agree that it was good because the safety of the players is very important.
Mike, I don't know how much you saw video board wise, did you see Colin Clay's little brother Warren?
Yeah, they showed that, yeah. That's pretty awesome. In fact, I think our people are wanting to do the podcast or something? Somebody's wanting to do a podcast with the both of them, which would be pretty cool. Yeah. And they had a nice little, I saw a little bit of a race down here in the end zone. That was pretty good too. It's pretty good entertainment. It's almost like a minor league game, minor league baseball. So.
Mike, you were the first guy I've ever heard to say Cooper Rush will play in the pros because 5 years ago he was Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. I guess you were right. You watching him last night. Pretty good. Yeah,
I didn't get to see a lot of it. I was handing out candy, but I did see after I saw when it was a tie game and Minnesota kicked a field goal, and then after that I saw it. But you could tell by watching tape on him, he's a good player, and he's accurate and has a quick release and not scared to throw into tight coverage, which is what they look for in the NFL. He's been in the league now, 5-6 years or so? Doing good, yeah. He's a good player. Yep. Anything else? All right, guys. Thank you all.